All right, well, then we'll go ahead. And for those of you that I haven't met so far, of course, my name is Tim McColly. And what we're going to be talking about this morning is what we call the seller process and the buyer process, meaning if you have found someone that has indicated that they're looking to sell, how do we get through this and get you to a successful sales and marketing agreement? So let's talk about the probable scenario that you'll be in. You have somebody that's part of your network, might be part of your core group, and this is what we call a lay-down listing, which means, yeah, they know you, they like you, they're going to list with you. It's not a question of they're competing against 2 or 3 other brokers, or they're not shopping around. Again, they're pretty much sold on you, and they're going to list with you. I often quote NAR statistics. Every year, the National Association of Realtors does a survey of home buyers and sellers to learn about their home buying and selling experiences. When it comes to sellers, they always ask the question, how did you choose the agent with whom you listed your home? And generally speaking, about 2/3 of the time, it says, well, it was somebody that I had a former relationship with. I knew them, I liked them, I trusted them, did business with them in the past, or it was somebody that was referred to me through somebody in my network. And there's a good chance, again, that they're going to go ahead with you. They also ask the question, how many agents did you talk with before you listed your home? And about the same number, year in and year out, 66, 67% answer, they just talked to one agent. And so that's what we call the lay-down listing. Now, just because it's a lay-down listing, don't think you're not going to need to do the same things you do if you were competing for the listing. You've got to build your base. You've got to show them why they're going to benefit by having you represent them in the sale of their home. Show them the tools. Show them all the things that we have. Because just because they're part of your network doesn't mean that they're going to be easier to deal with or that they're not going to have objections as well. So then let's take the other approximately 1/3. So 1/3 of those are somebody you may have met, but you really don't know them. Again, even if they were referred to you by a friend, you don't know them. So you were talking to somebody on your network, you were making your flow calls, and one of the responses was, oh, you should call my friend Debbie. I know that they've been thinking about selling, and I think that they might be looking at a transfer. Oh, okay. Do you happen to have Debbie's name? Then it would be okay if I used your name when I contacted her. No, that would be great. So now you're calling somebody you don't know. And so in that case, again, you're going to have to start from scratch, build that commonality, ask those forward questions, and start to build that trust and rapport. But in either case, there's a strong probability that those people are going to go ahead with you. So if we have that lay down listing, you know somebody, one of the first things we want to start thinking about is getting a jump start on your marketing, specifically getting a jump start on those postcards. So you've got somebody and you're going to call to make an appointment. When would you like to come out? Well, could you come out next Tuesday? Could you come out Saturday afternoon? Whatever it might be. Okay, great. One of the things that we do as part of our pre-marketing program is to start making your property known to the neighborhood while actually not listing your property specifically. We have what's called just listed or coming to the market postcards. And if it's okay with you, I'd like to get a start on those and get those sent out so that we might start generating leads as soon as you actively hit the market. Would that be all right with you? Again, it's somebody that's very close to you. It's your cousin. You've known them all your life. They're going to do what you say. Okay, let's make an appointment early next week. Meanwhile, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get a jump start on our marketing and try to get, so when we do list a property, we'll hit the ground running. We have what's called coming to the market postcards. And just to give you a heads up, I'm going to be mailing those to your neighborhood. So we want to think ahead so we can get going on our postcards. Also, of course, McColly Connect. When you know you're going to be getting a listing, as I'm sure they talked about yesterday, getting the news out, McColly Connect, that there will be another property coming to the market. So then let's take a look at your outline under the seller process. It tells you that 4-step ninja consultation. And what are the first, I'm sorry, what are the 4 steps? Well, the first step is called connection. You want to either solidify or build that connection. Again, if it's somebody that you know, you want to solidify your connection. If it's somebody that's new to you, you want to build the connection. And from there, we go on to information. Information builds power. When it comes to negotiating, the one that has more information finds themselves in a better negotiating position. But also, so that when it's time to make a decision, your client will be comfortable. The more information we have given them, the more comfortable they're going to be. We then propose a solution, what their selling situation is, and finally we make our proposal. That's going to be in the form of our sales and marketing agreement. So it talks about the pre-listing interview. Before I actually make the appointment, or even if I've made the appointment, before I let them go, I want to perhaps talk some more about their situation, get more information. So it gives you the language. Is it all right with you if I ask you just a few questions, and then we set up a time for us to get together? What they're designed to do is help me prepare for our meeting. Shouldn't take more than 5 or 10 minutes. Is this an okay time with you? Hopefully it is. If not, know they're in the middle of something. Okay, when's a good time to call you back? Now, once you know the property and you've got the property address, there's a good chance that you're going to go on the MLS. You're going to search the sold history and see if there isn't a record of this property, the history of this property. Our MLS now goes back to, I believe, 1996. So there's a good chance under property history, you're going to find the property. You'll be able to pull up the most recent sale, or any of the sales for that matter, to see if there's been differences in the property from one sale to the next. But you'll have all of the basic information. And so therefore, rather than asking them about it, I can just reaffirm that, oh, yours is the 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath, 2-story, right? Something like that. So just as your name, you know how your name appears on the deed? Could be a question you would ask. You've got the property address, and just to reaffirm, is the property address the same as your mailing address? Are there anybody else involved in the decision-making process? Always a good question to ask. We'd like to know who might else be giving them information or helping them with making a decision. What are the best numbers to reach them? And what's the best email address or addresses? And again, let me just read from, why is it that you're selling? So we want to get them explaining their situation, why they're selling at this time. And we've got a question, when do you need to move? Or what's your time frame? So we've got these questions here, but you always need to adapt the question to your situation and adapt the questions to your own personal style. So what's your time frame regarding your move? And where it's got, could you describe your home for me? Again, maybe I've got the sold information. So rather than them describing it, I can just reaffirm some of the things: number of bedrooms, number of baths. My records indicate you've got about this square footage. And it is, we said, a 2-story home. Looks like you've got about a 1/2 acre lot. It does have a basement. And let me see here. Is the basement finished, or has anything been done to the basement since you've owned it? My records show you purchased the home back in 2013. Looks like August of 2013. Is that about right? And let me just ask a question. When you bought your home, what was it that sold you on that home? What were the features that kind of stood out for you? The things that caught your eye, the things that kind of separated this home from others that you may have been considering. So I want to get their feedback, get them involved. On the next page, number 9 says, have you done anything or any updating to the home since you bought it? Have you done anything that may have added value to the property? Now, ultimately, we're going to make a distinction between value and saleability. Adding value means you've done something to the property that literally can make it more valuable than the homes you may have been competing against. You updated your kitchen and bath, and you put in marble or granite countertops, and you redid the cabinetry. You added a 3 or 4 seasons room off the back. That unfinished basement is now finished. Those things will add value. You put on a new roof. You had to replace the furnace. You had to replace the hot water heater. Those things make the home more saleable. They do not necessarily add a lot of value. Buyers expect a good working furnace. They expect the roof to be in reasonably good condition. So the fact that you had to replace those things, you're not going to recoup the cost of the replacement because they didn't add the value. They just made it more saleable. And then number 10, a good question to ask. If you were to stay in your home another 5 years, is there anything you think you would do to it? That would kind of give you an idea of what they know to be some areas of concern. Maybe they'd say, well, we probably would update the kitchen and bath, or we probably would have to, whatever it might be, because we know that, okay, those are some areas that might be a little bit of drawback in the eyes of potential buyers. And then number 11, again, we're trying to get their feedback on the home. For a moment, pretend to be a buyer and look at your home through the eyes of the buyer, the same way you looked at it when you were looking at properties on the marketplace. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate its condition? And of course, 10 being a model home and really needing a lot of work would be down in that poor condition, number 1. And what do you think they're probably going to say to that? They're probably not going to say a 10. Let's face it, if we live in our homes, it's probably not going to be like model home condition. But if they are reasonably doing good upkeep and so forth, they're probably going to say 7 or 8, right in that range. And just wondering, what would it take to make your home that 10 then? Again, so the things that they can point out that, again, perhaps buyers would be concerned about as well. Number 12, I always like to know this. Ballpark, what do you think your home is worth? Or do you know what you're going to be asking for the home? I always want to know what they're thinking about the value of their home. Now, let's take a look at the market. We know that in many of our price points, it is a strong seller's market. That homes are coming on the market, they're getting immediate showings, they're getting offers that are competing against each other. So your sellers have probably talked to their neighbors, talked to their friends who have sold homes, and they've told them their experience and how they got over list price and how values are really going up. So sellers today are learning that, hey, it's okay for me to be ambitious when it comes to my pricing strategy. So you need to expect that. So what are you going to be asking for the property? And I'm not going to discuss pricing at this time. I'm just trying to get a ballpark figure. Of course, we're going to talk about pricing. I will tell them when we come over and discuss your selling situation. But I'm just trying to get a number from them so I know what they're thinking. Do you own the property free and clear, or is there a mortgage lien on the property? If so, do you know what the approximate mortgage balance is? And have you refinanced or had an appraisal on the property done recently? In all likelihood, they haven't had an appraisal done just on their own. They just didn't decide, let's get an appraisal before we put the property on the market. If they refied within the last 6, 12, 18 months, okay, they had an appraisal done. And if that's the case, would they have the appraisal report available for me? And we'll show you how that can help us in our pricing strategy. And just wondering from your end of it, what are the 3 things that you're looking for in a realtor? We're trying to get their input. And it might be, well, we're not really sure. I don't know, we just want to list with a good company and a good agent and something very vague like that. Or it could be that they've had a prior experience. Well, we want an agent that's going to keep us updated on a regular basis. We want an agent that, whatever, maybe they got some specific things that we can find out simply by asking the question about what are the 3 things you're looking for in a realtor. And if you have reason to believe that they might be talking to other companies, you might want to ask, are you interviewing any other brokers regarding the sale of your home? And have you made any appointments with them? If it's that person that's very close to you, the person that's a core person in your network, I'm probably not going to ask that question. As we go to the next page, again, I'm not sure I'm going to ask them if they've considered going for sale by owner. I'm sure I'll find out. But if they're willing to make an appointment with me, if they're willing to sit down with me, they're probably not thinking about going for sale by owner. If they were, why would they want me to come over, other than perhaps give them my opinion on pricing? Have you sold a property or properties in the past? And if so, what kind of experiences have you had, good or bad? What were their experiences when they sold private properties? Anything else I should know about your home? And in preparation for the meeting, do you have at this point any questions for me? And then we're going to explain to them what happens next. So on your outline, number 20 says 1 call or 2 call. So let's kind of differentiate that. A 1 call approach means that, again, I'm gathering information on the phone. I'm pulling up the sold report. I know the market. I know that area. Maybe I sold them the home. If that's the case, I can get my whole presentation and the actual finalizing the sales and marketing agreement all in one appointment. A 2-step approach is when you're perhaps not as familiar with the property. These are people that you don't already know, so you want to build more trust and rapport. And in that case, you're going to use 2 steps. The first step, you're going to go out, make an appointment to simply go through the property, look at the property, gather information about the property, and while you're there, build trust and rapport, learn more about the seller or sellers, so that you can come back the second time and then talk about the marketing presentation and finish the sales and marketing agreement, get the listing. And if that's the case, you might be putting together what we call a pre-listing packet. The pre-listing packet is information you will get to them in advance of your appointment, or if it's a 2-step appointment, when you go out the first time, information you're going to be leaving with them. And another question you might want to ask at this time, we're going to set our appointment. At this point, good chance, by the way, have you looked at properties in the area to which you are going to be moving? We belong to the largest residential real estate network in the country, leading real estate companies of the world. And we've got top agents in virtually every market. And if you need some assistance, I'd love to refer you to one of our leading RE companies to help you with your move. Would that be all right with you? So I'm looking for the referral as soon as possible. So on page 28, then it talks about the pre-listing packet. So here are things to include that you are going to get to the seller before you actually go to your appointment, or things that if you don't get them in advance, you're going to take with you as part of your presentation to the seller. So you've got the McColly Experience Excellent brochure, professionally done, very impressive, and trust me, this will put you above virtually everybody else in the marketplace, simply because of the quality of that brochure. The leading real estate RE flyers, opportunities that could be good to include with the Experience Excellence form. Sample color brochure that maybe you've done in the past. Coming to the market postcards. If we haven't confirmed that we're going to be sending, that we can send them out, tell them here's what we want to do in advance. MoxiPresent, your Google Analytics report, another excellent tool, especially in our area. In our area, what are sellers concerned about when it comes to marketing? What sellers want to know, how are you going to impact Illinois buyers? Because the perception is we've got all these buyers from Illinois coming to Indiana, which is true. We have a strong influx of buyers coming from Illinois that have bucket loads of money and they're just willing to pay top dollar. Well, I don't know how true that is, but the point is, yes, Illinois is a source of our buyers, and the Google Analytics report when you look at it and you see the tens of thousands of unique visitors per month, you will also see approximately 25% of those are coming from that Chicagoland market. So that's an important thing you should be pointing out to sellers, the fact that we have Illinois offices and we can show that those Illinois buyers are coming to our website. Statistics, we've got statistics on McColly Connect that show market trends. It shows our position in the market. And in the vast majority of markets, we're going to be the #1 company. So you want to use those. And then you can develop local statistics in their particular market to see how that we stand out. If you are going to do a two-step, the first time you go out there as part of that pre-listing packet, you'll probably want to leave a copy of the exclusive marketing and sales agreement and explain to them that we'll be discussing this when we come over. It's a good idea to read through it in advance, just so that they'll familiarize themselves with it and see if they have any questions. The net sheet. I'm not going to leave them a net sheet in a pre-listing packet. And of course, the net sheet is the sheet that's going to give them an idea of how much they're going to net from the sale. So we're going to be doing this 3 times. The first time is when we list the property. The second time, and the most important, will be when we have an offer or offers on the property. And the third time will be just before the closing, when we have the figures, and we're going to kind of compare just to see if there were any differences between our net sheet and the actual figures. But at time of listing, obviously we don't have a sale price. So at time of listing, what I'm really looking to do is just give them an idea of the costs that they will incur in the sale. Obviously, our marketing fees, title costs, recording fees, and your coach, if they haven't done that. Yes.
Sonia wants to know, did you say you leave the net sheet or not? Could you elaborate on that a little more?
Okay, I don't leave that as in a pre-listing packet, because at time of listing, as I was just saying, we don't know what the sale price is going to be. We can use an estimated sale price, but my main objective when I'm actually there and we're doing the sales and marketing agreement, that's when I'm going to give them a ballpark of estimate of the typical costs that they will incur. So with that one, you wanted to go through it with your coach, because we really don't have time to go through that. And again, we've got people in different markets that have different costs of sale as well. A personalized marketing plan, and we're going to be, when we talk about MoxiPresent, the McColly Connect overview, and how we can get an immediate start on marketing your property and why that's going to be a benefit to them. And then describing the sale process. We're trying to manage their expectations, kind of tell them what's going to be happening. Again, we may have gotten feedback on prior listing experiences. Let's discuss the showing experience and the process. But I would say that number 9, these are things that you're going to be doing when you're sitting down at your appointment with them and talking about now what's going to happen. Here's when the sign is going to be installed. Here's when it's going to be going into the MLS. We've done the coming to market postcards. I posted it on McColly Connect. So we may have some McColly agents that are already wanting to see the property. And we'll see if we can accommodate those as well, which we're trying to do. Just to give you kind of perspective here, not every seller is the same. Not every seller wants the absolute top dollar. Not every seller wants 87 buyers coming through their home. They will look at it from different perspectives. So that's why we can throw out the alternatives. One of the things we'd like to do is to get our marketing started with our approximately 500 agents within our company. That's where we're sending out the coming to market postcards and posting it on McColly Connect. Because given the number of buyers today, if we could find a buyer willing to pay you a fair price, and you could forego all of the inconvenience of dozens of showings, would that be something that would be attractive to you? No, we want as many buyers as possible. Okay, fine, that's what we're going to do. But maybe the seller says that would be great, because we've got my elderly parent living here, and we don't want them to be disturbed. Or of course, we've got the pets that we have to deal with. So yeah, if we could cut down on the inconvenience, that would be great. Sometimes people are afraid that I say, I just want to get our agents in first. Well, why not? Why can't I put it? I'm not saying that. We're just saying maybe from your situation, it would be a benefit to you. Something you want to consider? That's what we'll try to accomplish. Discuss purchase process and buyers. Again, I'm not doing this in a pre-listing packet. I'm not doing this on my first appointment in a two-step approach. As I'm talking about the sales and marketing agreement, then I can be talking about, for example, what type of financing alternatives are we going to offer, and are there any advantages or disadvantages when it comes to the FHA, VA, or conventional. On the top of the next page, it talks about discussing appraisals. And of course, that's one of the things we're going to be discussing when we talk about our pricing strategy. I understand, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, that the market is hot. I'm not going to disagree with you on that. But remember, we always have to sell the home more than once. Generally, we have to sell the home to the buyer's agent, who then sells it to the buyer, but then we got to sell it to the bank. And of course, that's where the appraisal comes in. And we'll look at things we can do to hopefully minimize the chances of getting a cut appraisal. But we always have that sticking in the back of our mind. The seller's disclosure form. The seller's disclosure form is a good form to get to them either in a pre-listing packet or on our first meeting on our two-step approach. You're going to be needing to complete the seller's disclosure form. So you might want to take a look at this before I come over for the appointment to see if there's any areas that you might have questions about, get them familiar with that. And of course, if the property was built before 1978, the same thing with the lead-based paint form. McColly affiliated business forms, good thing as part of your pre-listing packet or that first step in a two-step approach. The MLS input sheet, questionable. Use that as your style. You want to deal with that now. Lots of detailed information. I'm not so sure we have to worry about that. Most of the stuff on this MLS input sheet is stuff that you're going to fill in. You're taking it off the property information. You're taking off the sold report. There's only a handful of things that we're going to have to get the seller's input. The preparing your home overview, that's a good thing. And of course, you might want to direct them. Have you been to my website? If you go to my website, at the top of the page, they've got buyer/sellers. And if you go there, you'll get some good tips about putting your property on the market, preparing your property, and so forth. So we want to direct them to your website or to the McColly website. I'm going to leave behind the home warranty information. We'll want to discuss if that's something we want to offer as a perk in the sale of your property. And I generally would always recommend to sellers to offer a home warranty. By offering a home warranty, it is something that buyers like. It gives them peace of mind, but it also gives free seller protection to that seller during the time of the listing. And not always, but sometimes when a buyer does a home inspection and the home inspector finds defects, there's a chance that some of these defects may actually be covered on the home warranty that the seller agreed to at the time of the listing. So for those reasons, I always urge sellers to offer a home warranty. Your listing agreement allows us to contact utility companies to get information, but do you have a history, maybe 12 months worth of utility payments that could be available to prospective buyers? Any homeowner association information would be helpful. And the lockbox authorization, that's on the listing agreement, not something I'm going to be worried about. I want it prior to the listing. All right, so moving along then, pre-listing interview questionnaire. Those questions that we're asking in advance of our actual appointment, our actual presentation appointment. Preparing what they call the value positioning analysis. You might call it a CMA. I call it a pricing strategy analysis. And you've got two wonderful tools. You've got MoxiPresent and you've got Buy Side. How many of you have had the opportunity to go on to Buy Side yet? Anybody? Okay, take that as a no. But under MoxiPresent, which I was going to get into, what they probably talked to, at the top of the page, on the toolbar, you go across, and I'm trying to remember the actual name of the tab, but it takes you to Buy Side. You put in the address of the property, and by the way, you can do this with properties anywhere in the country, and it will come up with 3 AVMs. You know what an AVM is? The automated valuation model, the computer generated opinion of value, like what Zillow does with their Zestimate. That is an automated valuation model. And when you go to Buy Side, put in the address, it'll come up with 3 valuations for that property. So one of the things you could tell your prospective sellers is, now another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to email you 3 automated valuation models. That'll kind of set the stage for our pricing discussion. So look for those in an email coming from me as well. So when we're going to be talking about marketing price or market pricing strategy, you've got great tools today to get you started in a way we never could in the past. But nevertheless, we're still going to look at specific properties, because when we sit down with the seller to discuss their pricing strategy, and we look at those 3 automated valuation models, one of the things that stands out is how far apart they are, how extreme they can be from the top of the 3 to the lowest of the 3. And then we're going to discuss with the seller why we can justify one of them perhaps being more accurate than the others. And maybe that's about where we're going to want to start our pricing strategy. And to do so, you're going to have some specific sold properties, the comps that you pull. You're going to pull up the current active listings in their market. And of course, similar properties that were on the market that didn't sell, those expired listings. Check pricing histories, days on the market. That's another thing we want to calculate. You just go on the MLS and you can just, in general, what's the average days on market for properties. Now the problem is with the average days on market, when we talk about the pond in just a minute, we're going to show you how average days on the market can be kind of a misleading figure. But you're going to want to determine absorption rates. Now, absorption rate is a good tool to tell the sellers what kind of market they are in. And here's the way an absorption rate works. An absorption rate is designed to measure the current supply or the current pace at which properties are selling on a monthly basis. It will measure the number of months of inventory. So the way we do that is take your market. It could be the area of the MLS. It could be a price range between $300,000 and $400,000. It could be a specific area, Shorewood Forest, Lakes of the Four Seasons. However, you can set that up. And whatever the parameter, you go in and just in general, how many active listings are there currently on the market? All right, and then going back to the MLS, let's measure the number of homes that sold in that market in the past 12 months. So now I've got the number of actives and the number of solds. So I take the total number of solds divided by 12. That tells me on average how many properties have sold per month. I then take my active listings, divide it by that number, and that will tell me how many months of inventory are on the market at that time. And generally the way it works is this: if you have less than 4 months, that is a seller's market. And the lower the number, the stronger the seller's market. I'm seeing markets with 2.5 months of inventory, and that's an incredibly strong seller's market. If you've got between 4 months and 6 months, it's what we call a neutral market. That's kind of where we would like it to be. Or if we have more than 6 months, that's going to get us into a buyer's market. And if you're getting above $500,000 price range, you're probably still in a buyer's market. If you have, and given our time restrictions, if you have any questions about absorption rate, send me an email, and I'll see if I can straighten it out for you. I can also go back and look at the number of homes that sold in their area last year, 12 months, in the last 12 months, the prior 12 months, and the prior 12 months. So is the number of sales increasing or decreasing? And what about the median sale price? What's been happening with that? So those statistical things that we can put in front of the seller to give them a better understanding of what their market is like, to help them make a more informed decision on their pricing strategy. So talk checks months of inventory chart, what's happening in this price range, prepare the pond, and the absorption rate analysis. We'll get to that one on our next page. Well, I don't want to spend a lot of time on the pond, so let me just kind of give you the overview. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, the real estate market is like a pond. What happens in the pond? Water is flowing into the pond. It flows through the pond, and ultimately it flows out of the pond. But on the top, we've got flowing water. And then towards the middle, it's not flowing as quickly. And at the bottom of the pond is where it's kind of the swampy, it's not moving much at all. Well, listings are the same way. Listings come on the market. Hopefully, buyers see those listings and they interact with the listings to the point where they make offers, they get accepted offers, the property sells, and it flows out of the market. But a property that is not positioned correctly goes into the pond, it doesn't get any attention, and it starts to sink to the bottom. And if it's, again, not positioned correctly, it goes to the bottom, where then it sits, and buyers are not interacting. And that's where we don't want to be. We want to make sure that we stay in the flow in that pond. So the pond is just kind of an analogy that says not all properties immediately sell or automatically sell. And the problem with our average days on the market is the ones at the bottom of the pond that have been sitting there for 6 months. That kind of skews the average days on market. All right, so in preparation for our appointment then, we can drive the neighborhood, maybe take a digital photo, upload it so that that'll be right there. When you do your MoxiPresent, you'll already have the picture of their property. Let's take pictures of those similar properties that are on the market in their area. Are there any for sale by owners? If there's any for sale by owners, this would be a great opportunity to actually maybe knock on their door, get and just meet them. Hi, my name is Tim McColly from McColly Real Estate. I'm working with a property owner in your area that's going to be listing their home with me. I'm just curious what you folks are asking. I'm not going to talk about listing their home, anything like that. Just introduce myself and so forth. Are there any positives or negatives that you notice about the neighborhood? As we go to the next page, and a lot of the stuff's going to make sense, so we're going to kind of go through this quickly. You're just trying to become the neighborhood expert. If I see things in the area that might have an impact on value one way or the other. What's your pricing strategy? So what do you see as the price range for homes in the area? Where do you think would be a good starting point for them in the pricing of their home? And where will we have to be priced just to be in line, even if we're a little ambitious? As you're preparing yourself for the actual presentation appointment, think to yourself, what's the seller's most important objective? What have you learned from them? Yeah, everybody wants to get the most amount of money, but you know what? What else is there? What about that time frame? What other demands do they have? What does the seller think their most important objective is? Because sometimes they're so focused on sale price, they're not taking into account other things that are important to them. What do you know about the Ford situation? And of course, you talked about Ford yesterday. What's your seller's personality style? Have you learned that yet? If they're that more dominant personality style, they tend to make decisions more quickly. They're ready to go. They just want to make that decision. So you got to give them information, give it to them quickly, give it to them with an air of confidence and say, let's go ahead. The less dominating, I would say, are the analyticals or the amiables, and they need more time, and they just want to feel comfortable. They want to feel they're not being taken advantage of. They generally need more information, and they certainly don't like pressure. Analyze the 3 things they may have told you they're looking for in a realtor. Do you think, can you anticipate any objections they would have to listing with you? What are potential pricing objections? Are there problems with the property that they've already pointed out? Or if this is the second step of the 2-step approach, things that I saw. But when I went through my first appointment, that first step, just to go preview the property, even if I saw, let's just say, weaknesses in the property, those were not things I was going to bring up at that time. And of course, what are my strategies to handle potential objections when they occur? All right, B, either if you haven't already done so, deliver the pre-listing packet. Your first step in a 2-step approach, walk through the property. Again, it's not just to give information about the property, it's to build rapport, it's to review their situation, review their motivations, qualify them, qualify the home. During that walkthrough, again, asking questions. How many properties have you sold? When did they sell the last one? What were their experiences when they sold the property? Top of the next page, what did you like best about the agent or agents that you've worked with in the past? In what areas did you find them perhaps lacking? And what would you like to do the same or differently than you did in your past sales? And if you could wave a magic wand, the question, and have this sale go just the way you want, what would that look like? So again, I want to get their feedback. Review why they're selling, review where they're going, again, and the potential of the referral, review how quickly they need to be there. Are there other properties that they may need help with, either now or in the future? So you don't know that, oh, by the way, we're going to be moving and we've decided we don't want to be an out-of-town landlord, so we're going to be selling our 2 investment properties as well. So you never know. I'd ask some questions here. After you've asked about what's included and included, do you want to price the home including these things or price the home without these things? I prepared a packet of information, which I'm going to leave with you. What I'd like you to do is read through it before I come over tonight, tomorrow night, whenever my second appointment would be. Or I dropped it off yesterday. I left it between the storm door and the front door, as I told you I would. And so if you haven't had the chance, please review that information. That'll help us in our discussion tonight or tomorrow night or whatever. Based on the information in the packet, well, you can read that. It's all self-explanatory. If we go on to the next page, it tells you, 1 of 3 things might happen. After all the questions, you're going to decide that, yes, you'd like me to represent you in the sale of your home. There may be a reason why you wouldn't feel comfortable doing that. Or it could be a situation where I felt I couldn't help you because I wouldn't want to take your listing knowing that I really couldn't help you do what you really thought you'd be able to accomplish. So with that, just to give you some thoughts, and I look forward to seeing you whenever the appointment will be. The next one, my mission is to help you get moved. Well, here's that discussion of the pond, which I gave you, so you can review that. Another presentation question, are you willing to list your home at fair market value? And of course, we'll discuss fair market value. But let me just throw something in about pricing today. Again, this is a crazy market. I never would have thought we'd have seen a market like this last as long as it has. And talk to any honest real estate agent out there and they will tell you houses are selling for more than they thought they could possibly sell for. So for me to go over to a seller and say, here's what I think your home will sell for, you know what? That's kind of delusional. We're being shocked. We've got multiple offers. We've got buyers competing. And I've got agents regularly telling me, I can't believe that we got an offer that high. I can't believe that ultimately it praised out. So I don't want to waste a lot of time trying to convince a seller that they are being absolutely absurd in their pricing strategy unless it's really the higher priced home. And again, it's more of a buyer's market. And I think that, and the home's been on the market in the past, hasn't sold, and they're insisting that somehow you're a magician and you can sell it for this higher price that nobody else could. But for the most part, in many of our markets today, I understand that seller is going to be ambitious because they've heard the stories. I can understand that. But I will tell you this, you will know right away if you are too ambitious. Because if our initial pricing strategy, we don't get showings, we don't get offers within the first 10 to 15 days, in this market, that means we overshot the mark. So I'm willing to go along with you and be ambitious in our pricing strategy, as long as you're willing to agree that if we don't know something quickly, then we need to adjust quickly. Fair enough? So I think that's probably the best way you can handle sellers today that want to be ambitious, because they're going to be ambitious. So the idea, if you're not getting offers right away, not getting showings right away, that means the buyers think you're too ambitious, and therefore we need to be able to adapt quickly. Talking about the next page, how buyers and sellers determine fair market value. Of course, what's fair market value? What buyers are actually willing to pay for homes like yours in this market today. There is no number that's etched in stone. And we can only learn fair market value by actually getting on the market and testing the waters. Other tools, the 6-year market charts that you find in McColly Connect under file downloads, that'll give you a pricing history, but you can quickly do a pricing history to show what's happened. Every quarter, of course, we put out the quarterly market reports, in which, this is Indiana because I don't have access to all the information in Illinois, where we compare basically the areas of the MLS and how does it compare this time of year versus the same quarter last year. And so we just did the third quarter. I'm not sure they have those posted online yet, but that's something we can show. And here's the trend in your particular market. So I'm at the presentation, and what I'm going to do here is just kind of walk you through, if you go to the next page, the marketing plan. So our goal, our objective is to get your property sold and get you where you want to go in your time frame. So that's what we were talking about, their time frame. And to put you in the strongest negotiating position possible. Because where are you in the strongest possible negotiating position? Early in the listing period, when we have hopefully multiple offers. Because from a negotiating standpoint, when does the seller have the most power, the most strength? They're in that position early, when they're just on the market, when buyers are looking for those new listings. Buyers are anxious to find something quickly, see something nobody else has seen. And therefore, we know in that first 10, 15, 21 days, but after that, if we haven't been successful, then the marketing activity is going to start to diminish. And the power is going to start to shift from the sellers to the buyers, because the buyers know the property's been on the market. Nobody else is willing to buy the property. And therefore, they feel that now they can be more ambitious in their negotiations with that seller. So that's why it's important at the beginning to develop a pricing strategy that will get us immediate activity. And if we overshoot the mark, to adjust quickly while we're still in a position of power. That will help you to get price reductions in the future. And it will also help you when you get full price offers in the first 3 days of the listing, because we've prepared them that this could happen. And that's not a bad thing. Another way we're going to help them is by ordering the pre-title commitment so that we can get their title process started. It's at our cost. We will assist you in giving you some staging ideas. And again, on our website, there's also going to be staging ideas Obviously, we're helping you with the pricing. We sent out the coming to market postcards. I put it on McColly Connect, our marketing system. And here's the things that we're going to do on the marketing system. And of course, we're going to be using MoxiPresent. Here's how the yard sign works. I have a step-in sign that I'm going to be putting on the property. Now, we have to kind of look at our sales and marketing agreement and determine when we are actually signing the sales and marketing agreement and when we're making it our effective date. So that might have an impact, and we can get into that discussion at a later time if you haven't already done so. The color brochure that's created and the website that's created for your property, we're going to be putting a brochure box so that we do have drive-bys. You'll want to check your brochure box regularly and let me know if we're getting low. I'm going to give you a stack of brochures that you can put in there. Obviously, we're going to talk about the effectiveness of using a lockbox on the property. And given your situation, might we want to consider the McColly exclusive, meaning that before we throw it onto the MLS, our agents are in all likelihood working with buyers in this market at this time. And if that's the case, maybe we want to, again, just make it a McColly exclusive for a period of time so as to diminish the inconvenience that you might experience and kind of not put you into a frenzy, if you will. So we'll talk about the considerations behind the McColly exclusive. Obviously, McColly.com. Of course, that's our Google Analytics report, each month receiving on average over 70,000 visitors. Yes, we will be putting it into the multiple listing service. On the next page, personal contact. If it's okay with you, I would like to promote your property within the neighborhood. Now, the reason I do this is because we have learned that there's a good chance that the buyer for your home already knows somebody that lives in the area. If you stop and think about this, when you are looking, if you own your own home, if you've purchased a home and you are in the early thought process, where should we move? Or what areas might we consider? Oftentimes, it goes something like this. You remember John and Mary? You know, John used to work with me. You know, they moved to Indiana. He moved to, he told me it's Crown Point. He really loves it there. They live in this subdivision called Ellendale Farms. Maybe that's something we should put on our list. So that's what people do. They rely on others and helping them with their buying decision. So Mr. and Mrs. Seller, if it's okay with you, I would like to promote your property into the neighborhood. Now, this is what we call, I'm going to give you a prospecting technique that comes from Ninja Selling. It's called the 5-5-10 technique. Under the Ninja program, they stress that your next transaction is found within your current transaction. In other words, utilizing your current buyer or your current sellers to generate more buyers and generate more sellers. So here's how the 5-5-10 technique works. So as soon as you have them sign the sales and marketing agreement, even if the effective date is not kicked in, I want to get out there as quickly as possible. So we would suggest to you that a good listing day or days would be Thursday or Friday. The reason being that gives you the weekend that you have control over the property that you can use to your seller and your best interest. So let's say you list the property on Thursday night. The effective date isn't until Monday. That's the date it's going into the MLS. So that means I've got Friday, I've got Saturday, I've got Sunday to get a head start on the marketplace, which means I can do open houses over the weekend. And those buyers that are out there hungrily looking for properties might be driving by. I can do my 5-5-10. So the way it works, I create my brochure, easy to do, using Moxie. And I'm going to go to the 5 neighbors to the left side of the house. I'm going to go to the 5 neighbors to the right side of the house. And I'm going to go to the 10 neighbors across the street. Saturday morning, great time. People are usually home. I knock on door with my brochure. Hi, my name's Tim McColly from McColly Real Estate, and we're going to be marketing your neighbor's home at whatever the address of the property. The sign will be going up shortly. Meanwhile, I promised as part of our service to them that we would promote the property into the neighborhood, because we have found that oftentimes neighbors know of other people interested in looking to the property. I'm going to give you the brochure. My card's at the bottom. If you have any questions, you can always give me a call. And we're going to be doing a open house on Sunday from 1 until 3. If you'd like to stop by, or if you know of anybody that might be looking for a home, tell them that they are welcome to stop by as well. So I do that. So now I've just made 20 contacts with people that have an interest in my listing because it's in their area and they're interested in what's going on. All right. So I've now told them we've listed the property. Here's a flyer. If you have any questions, glad to help you. Now, I also promoted my open house, but let's say I didn't plan an open house yet. I'm not doing that till next weekend. Before my next weekend, again, maybe Friday evening, early in the evening, it's getting dark now early, or again, Saturday morning. Hi, Tim McColly again. I saw you on Stop last week. We're doing an open house tomorrow. Just thought I'd drop an open house brochure. If you know if anybody might be interested, or if you want to stop by, that'll be great as well. So now I've made 2 contacts with them. When the property sells, I can print my sold report and I go to those same 20 households. And I just want to let you know that we were successful in marketing the program. We had a lot of interest from prospective buyers. And if you know the buyer and you have buyer's permission, well, you can also introduce your buyer. So that 5-5-10 technique is a great way of utilizing your current listing to position yourself favorably with 20 other households who may be thinking about selling. All right. A counter display, the brochure box that you could actually put in the house when you're doing open houses or when buyers come through for showings. Open houses, again, an open house can be a great tool to generate not only additional buyers, but prospective sellers as well. And the fact that we're going to update you weekly, staying in touch, giving you advice and making suggestions if we need to make any changes and so forth. So it tells you back to the basics, the 6-step marketing plan, which is Appendix E, but use the exclusive period to cultivate those leads, using the coming to market postcards. And again, the better advance notice you can get, and just position with the seller. If it's okay with you, we have found this could be a very good tool for you.
Hey, Tim. Tim,
Question.
A question did come in. Would you do this many steps if you're listing a fixer-upper or an as-is home that is not in good condition?
It depends upon your relationship with the seller. So you have to adapt. Again, it's the seller. You say it's a fixer-upper. Is this a seller that you've done business with in the past? Because that's what they do. They flip houses. Obviously, I'm not going to do this every time with them. So it depends upon my relationship with the seller. How well do I know them? But as far as the house, yeah, if the house is in lesser condition, or it is that fixer-upper, maybe it's an estate sale, it needs work. So I have to be flexible, but I just want to make sure that whoever is going to be signing the listing agreement feels comfortable. But from my own position, even if it's a fixer-upper, I can still go to the neighbors and see, I still want to put it on McColly Connect, fixer-upper, if you've got flippers that you work with or rehabbers that you work with. So I want to utilize whatever tool I can to the benefit of the seller and to the benefit of myself. Hope that answers it.
Does that help, John? Okay, thank you.
Again, it talked about the use of McColly Connect, talk about the time placement for the for sale sign, depending upon when, again, the actual dates of your contract are, and when it's going to go into the MLS. All right, so that's a lot of information to cover in a relatively short amount of time. Again, the key being be flexible, adapt yourself to the seller, gather as much information as you can, because the more information is going to be more beneficial to you. And now we're going to have Heather come in and talk about how you prepare a MoxiPresent presentation. A great tool. Again, the tools that you have at your disposal today are so much easier than what we did even a decade ago or 2 decades ago, where we had to do so much stuff by hand and everything. So make sure you utilize your tools to the best of your ability. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Heather.
Thank you, Tim. Hey, everyone. Good to, well, see your boxes with your names in them again today. I'm going to show you guys MoxiPresent. So we're not going to go through and actually take the time to pull every single comp, but I want to show you what capabilities it has for you to personalize it. So just holler if you are not able to see my screen here in a second. Okie dokie. First, just as a basic reminder, because I know we have some new folks on here, you get to all of your tools through Connect. You can always type in Moxie, it'll auto-populate, or any of your like vendor tools that we provide are going to be under this SSO button, which means single sign-on. And you'll see it right here, MoxiPresent. And I have it loaded up if I can get to it. There we go. All right, so when you open MoxiPresent, here's going to be your main page. And I'm going to click Create New on the top right. And it does have a couple of cool options. So maybe it's a less busy market and you have a really picky buyer and you're tired of driving them around town. So you want to create them a buyer tour, which is interactive. You would put the homes that you think they may be interested in on that buyer tour. They can give you notes of yay or nay or what they like or don't like. But for today's sake and what you'll probably be using Moxie for most is the seller presentation. So we're going to pick seller. And then the only thing, so if you're new, the only thing you're going to have in here is brokerage templates. So we're going to start with that. And once we go in and personalize, I'm going to show you guys how you can save it as your template so you don't have to mess around with it each time. So you'll click default seller, continue. And this is where you would put your seller's name because they will see this. So we'll use fast start for today. Okay, perfect. So here we are. So Moxie goes about 7 years back. So perhaps this home had been listed within the past 7 years. You can put that MLS number in here. But for today's sake, we're going to do it the hard way. So that way you guys know how to do it. So you have your subject property address, you know, where you're going on the listing appointment. All righty. And one thing I want to show you guys here on the right is an opportunity to upload an image. So let's say it is that home that you didn't have the MLS number for and it didn't have any options. You could click browse here. You could use Google Earth if you want and take a screenshot of the overhead of that house. Or some agents go above and beyond and they'll drive by that house, snap a picture. So you can upload an image there for your presentation, but you don't have to. And then when we're under subject property information, so whether you use the tax assessor's website or whatnot, the more information you put in here, the more accurate comps this program actually will prioritize for you. So this is a 4-bedroom, 3 full bathroom house. I, of course, would do my due diligence and look up the actual square feet, but we're just going to say 2,000 for today's sake. If you know the year it was built. Here, people will ask, do I have to fill all of this in? It's whatever you want your seller to see. So, you know, if you know, yes, it has a basement, fireplace, a 3-car garage, maybe attached. It's whatever you want them to see. So some agents, if you're, you know, in a pinch for time, you don't have to fill all this out. You could say new, 2018, whatever you want. And then when we get down here, we just press continue. And here's where the magic happens. Okay, so as you can see, we only have 4 right here. So that's probably not going to do the job. So we need to figure out, and they're active. So we need to play around with the filters. So this button will be your best friend. It's here on the right, filters. And we want to see sold from the last 6 months. So of course, those are the ones that really matter. And let's say maybe we want to see some pending and contingent. The cool thing about this program is if you email it to your seller and one of those pending homes goes sold or off market or whatnot, if they open that presentation a week later and there have been changes in the comps, that will reflect in the presentation. Also, let's see, here's where you can manipulate the square footage a little. So let's say we want to go down to, we want to see 1,500, because we don't know, some of them might have, pardon me, finished basements, etc. So you can toggle around the square feet. So this is going to be how you get more listings, and we can see them all on that heat map. So you can also filter here by price, bed, and bath. So if you feel like you're being pigeonholed, you need to play around with those filters. The cool thing about this program is it's linked to the MLS, so you can click details on any of these homes, and you're going to get a pop-up, and that pop-up is going to give you all of the photos of the inside of the home and all the information that you would need on it. And that'll help you, you know, more accurately pick your comps. So we're going to throw, let's see, 3, 4 of those in there. Maybe we'll put an active just so they can see, oh, my neighbor's house is for sale. What's it listed at? And then we can press continue. You can also zoom in and out here. So if you're out in more of a rural area and you want to get more comps, you can do that as well. But big thing to remember there is the filters button, because people will get frustrated that, oh my gosh, no comps are showing up. And it's because they're kind of pigeonholed as far as those filters go. So when we go to the next page, this is where we can decide what order we want our potential seller to see those homes in. If you want sold to active, high to low, whatever you prefer. So I'm going to do sold to active, and then I'm going to press continue. And this part is pretty cool because it actually gives you a number based on your comps. So of course, this would require you pulling accurate comps, but a lot of agents, you know, they aren't comfortable, or they want to go through this with their seller and say, hey, where do you think your house falls into place with these comps I showed you? So don't forget, there's this create range button right here. So maybe this is where you would fill in, you know, 265 to 275, and then you have that discussion with your seller, who obviously ultimately decides the price. So you can add a range. They will see this. If you don't want to talk about the exact price that you think that they should list with, I'll show you guys on the next page how to delete different pages. And then there's a tab up here that says estimated net proceeds. So this is kind of nice because in actuality, it is kind of a mimic of the net sheet. So you can choose to put this in if you want, or just, you know, if you want to put your commission percentages in up front, you can. Again, if you maybe aren't so sure what their mortgage payoff is or anything like that, you do not have to do this up front. And I'll show you again how to delete it. So continue on the bottom right. And just like that, we have the presentation. I'll let you guys go in and make, I think that might be your homework tonight, is to go in and, you know, do a listing presentation. So you have all the company information, which is great, especially if you're maybe newer into real estate and you're leaning on the company numbers and the company expertise. A lot of homes around here, you know, the Luxury Portfolio International probably isn't going to be applicable. So you can simply exit out. It is not gone forever. It's always in that brokerage template. And then let's say for commercial, we don't care about that for this one. So you've got all of your company pages. And then here is when you get to your property summary. So you can see what I filled in is what shows up here. The address, of course. And then it gives us different views of our comps. So we have a side-by-side comparison, an estimate comparison. So some people love this page, some people hate it. It's good though to show your potential seller that, hey, this estimate typically isn't always accurate. So if it doesn't make sense for that presentation, you can simply delete it. Here's your pricing analysis that we put in. Listing location. So again, this is an interactive program. They can click on any of these when they're within the program and it'll pop up that comp. We can tell the actives and sold. You see the averages, price and size. So these would be only for the comps that we picked. And again, they can click and they'll be able to open any of those homes and see the information, look at the inside of it. Price and days on market. And then we didn't fill out that net proceeds page. So for this one, we'd want to just go ahead and delete that. And then there's our listing overview. In order to reorganize any of these that you might want to do, let's say you want to talk about the house first because that's your preference, you just hold and drag. And then I also wanted to mention something else because I know Tim was talking about the stats that we provide for you guys. If you go up here on the top and press Add Page, you can do Add from Library. And we have, these are our report pages that are already in our report, but we can also go to brokerage pages. So these are going to be in all of your guys' MoxiPresents. And here are the top 10. So this is really nice because you can not only show the top 10 for NWI, so you could add that in your presentation. You would just click Add. You can also look at if you're going on a listing appointment out in, let's say, Chesterton, you can open up that and also add that to your presentation if you want to. So you guys can look around in here and see what pages they have. It's super easy to build a page or upload a PDF. So let's say you have a nice marketing piece with a little bit of a bio on yourself, or you have a personalized logo. You could also add that page in there. All right, so I'm gonna go back to pages. So once you guys get one polished how you like it, maybe you wanna only have 4 or 5 slides about the company, mentioning leading RE, etc. You can press Save as Template down here on the bottom left. And you can call it, as you saw earlier, I had Heather's seller template. So now when I come in, the only thing I'll have to change is the information about my subject property and my comps, but everything else will be in order how I like it. If I want that #1 in NWI chart front and center, I can have that front and center. So then it's a plug and chug from there on out. So once you get that polished one, it doesn't take too long at all. And one other thing I wanted to add, because people that have been in the industry for a while, they tend to be used to putting their comps in via the MLS numbers. So maybe you still do an MLS search to pull your comps. I wanted to make sure you saw here that there's this, under the search bar, there's this little bubble that says MLS number, and you can enter the MLS numbers of your comps right there as well if that's easier for you. So it is whatever your preference is. And then the last thing, of course, you need to know how to send it. So you have 2 options when you send it. You can send it as a PDF or you can send it as a presentation. I would recommend, if you're emailing it, to always send it as a presentation because it is interactive, where they can click on the comps and view the insides of it. But you can also, let's see, you can also go to web view, print view, and get an idea of what it would look like. It puts it into a nice PDF. And right here, when I went to more, and then I went to print view, you can print it right here. So that way, if you have someone that you want to go paper, put it in your nice McColly folder, you can do that as well. Any questions? Let's see. In the commercial listing, MLS, okay, Monica already took care of that. That's all I have, unless you guys have questions on MoxiPresent. And I think the biggest thing is to do a listing presentation on your parents' house or your old house or your house or someone that you know. Do a fake one for practice, so that way you can create that template. So then going forward, you're very comfortable with it. It's plug and chug.
All right, no more questions?
All right, I'm out of here if not. And I'm always an email or a phone call away, guys. So if you need help with it, we're here to help you. But have a great rest of your day. See you later.
Okay, thanks, Heather. Man, is that easy. Trust me, if I can do it, you can do it. And once agents just spend a little bit of time with this, you can put that presentation together in 5, 10, 15 minutes at most. And how professional it looks. It's interactive. What a great tool to be using with both sellers and buyers. We're going to talk about the buyer process, but I'm going to throw one thing in there because I mentioned something before, and that is the 5-5-10, actually going and knocking on strangers' doors. Oh my, heaven forbid, how can we do that? I understand some trepidation, but I would suggest to you, especially if you are newer, but it's for anybody, if you would like to go, then there are other reasons to knock on doors, such as expired listings, such as for sale by owners. But I'll give you a hint, buddy up. work with another fellow agent in the office and say, hey, I'll do this with on your listing, you do this with my listing. And so 2 people go. Safety in numbers, if you will. So just a thought, because today it seems like it's very frowned on to actually go knock on somebody's door, but it can be very effective because you get that face-to-face contact, you got more control of the situation. So again, maybe buddying up would be something that you could do. So for the next few minutes, we're just going to talk about what we call the buyer process. The buyer process is much less formal than the selling process, because sellers who have indicated they're going to sell probably will have that home on the market within the next week or so. So they're ready to go. So I need to be ready to go. Buyers, though, generally it's a much slower process and it develops over time. And so therefore, we don't have all the formalities that we do kind of in the seller process. So looking at your outline, it talks about 4 stages of the buying process. Our first stage is what we call curiosity. If you purchased a home in the past, you didn't wake up one morning and say, let's buy a house today. No, it's something you maybe just talked about, maybe someday we could, but now maybe things are looking more favorable and you're just kind of curious. What's kind of going on out there? And that's when you might pay more attention to for sale signs, might jump on the internet every so often. Number 2, now we start to develop some interest. Yeah, maybe, what this could be a time that we might really seriously start considering this. Number 3, you get to the point where, yep, we want to buy a home. That's the desire stage. And number 4, the commitment. We are going to go ahead. And so we're trying to capture buyers when they are either in the curiosity or interest stage, but that doesn't mean that I'm not looking to capture buyers at any time. The earlier I can capture the potential buyer, the more likely they're going to go ahead with me. It tells you that you never need to buy a house, but you always need to look at a house if you're going to buy. So what we're seeing offers today, buyers are making offers sight unseen, which I think is a very risky thing. But given the market, certain circumstances, of course, you would always want to make it subject to actually inspecting the property and improving it. All right, so let's talk about what the buyer's 4 greatest fears are when they are actually in the market looking to buy. What are they afraid of? Number 1, they're afraid of losing the property, afraid of losing out on that property. Number 2, they're afraid of missing something. Number 3, they're afraid of paying too much. And number 4, they're afraid that there's something wrong with the house and they're making a mistake. So that's why we have to analyze what's the situation. Losing the property. When you're in multiple offers, buyers are concerned. Their question, what should we do? That's what they're going to ask you. Gee, what should we do? About the best answer to that question I found is, well, you have to do what is going to feel all right with you either way. If you submit a higher offer and it's accepted, you'll be good with that. If you don't submit an offer, a higher offer, or you do submit one that's higher, but it doesn't win, you're okay with that. Number 2, missing something. That's why today buyers are on the internet every night looking for new things coming on the market, looking for homes they may have missed because they're concerned that there's something out there or that something is coming that they're not going to be aware of. They're afraid of paying too much. They don't want to be the stupid one that will pay way too much for this property. And that's why auctions tend to be successful, because at auctions, you know what the other person is doing and they're right there with you. So if I pay a little bit more than the other guy, it's okay because they were just right there with me. But if I don't know anything and my offer is accepted, I may think, wow, I paid way too much. And then something that's wrong with the house, and we try to assuage those things with doing a thorough inspection, but of course having a home inspection done on the property. So what are we trying to do? It says buyer process goals. When we do come across this buyer, we're just trying to get some clarity. We're trying to get some confidence built in our relationship and develop that commitment that, yes, they're ready to go ahead with you. So on the next page, it's got the buyer process, but this, and you can read some of this because it really depends. Is this buyer They're coming to town this weekend. They were referred to you from a friend. You've talked to them on the phone. This will be the first time you're meeting them, probably at the office. So that's going to be different than the person that I just ran across as part of my network, and we've been talking back and forth. So when it talks about, I want to make my connection, building trust and rapport, using those forward questions, things like that. Try to gain control. And of course, we're always looking to show how we can benefit them, why they will benefit by having us represent them in the buying process. The buyer interview. If you do meet person to person with them, there's some good tips there. Have a file folder with their name on it, makes them feel special. Sit down, and again, we're going to ask these clarifying questions about what their situation is. Again, we're always trying to look to build rapport, build the foundational questions, those questions about, you know, where they are, why they're there, where they want to go, and the diagnostic questions, as they call them, the open-ended questions, who, what, when, where, why, all about their buying experience. We're going to ask questions about their past. Going to the next page, where do they live now? How many homes have they owned in their lifetime, or is this the first time? When they purchased their current home, what was the process they went through? How did that process work for them? Are you familiar with how real estate works in our area? So you can see the other questions associated with them. Creating the buyer packet, a lot of the same things that we would have in the seller packet, we can include with the buyer packet. You've got the whole list of those things. Scale of 1 to 10. Where are they in the process? 1, of course, being with, we're just starting. We just even thought about maybe we could do this. Or number 10, if we saw the right home today, we'd be willing to buy it. So I'm just curious as to where they stand. Another exercise you can do, this is a good one when you're meeting face-to-face, because one of the frustrating things, if you haven't experienced this, is sometimes, even though they're together and they know each other and they think they know each other, that doesn't mean that they both want the same things. So a good exercise that they give you is give them each a piece of paper, keep them separated, say, we don't want you working on this together, and what are the features that you are looking for in a home and why those are important to you. Another thing you can do is what we call the wants and needs. So on my left-hand column, it's, I'm going to give you 3 things that you absolutely say you need in a property. You tell me what those 3 things are. And over here, give me 5 additional things that you would like to have in a property. So by having them do that separately, and then let's compare and see if we're on the same page. Because sometimes what you don't know is the thing that's stopping you from finding the right home for them. So those are a couple of exercises you can do when you first meet with buyers face-to-face and you start talking about what their home desires are in a home. Okay, how are they going to pay for it? Cash purchase, do they need to get a loan? Do they need a house to sell? Of course, if they want to get a pre-approved, if they want to get a new loan, they got to get pre-approved. And to approach that, I always suggest, if it's okay with you, I'm going to have somebody from Diamond Residential Mortgage give you a call. No cost, no obligation, but I know they will give you accurate information in this marketplace and they will treat you honestly. So if that's okay with you, expect a call from whoever the name might be that I'm going to pass along. Certainly doesn't mean you can't talk to other loan officers. If you already have, that's a good thing. Always good to get a second opinion. Obviously, they have a home to sell. Then we're going to talk about what their strategy is going to be. Do they need to sell the home first? Does it have to be contingent, which is tough in today's market? So we'll do those things. We want to give those buyers some of the same information about the market, about what's going on, about price trends, about absorption rates that we did with sellers. Cream puff discussion. If we found, the first time we went out, if we found that perfect home, was there any reason you'd be reluctant to making a move on that? And under the review, it talks about understand the 10-week narrowing process. That process refers to that buyers, again, this evolves over time. And oftentimes, NAR has found that buyers don't actually start looking at homes until they're 10 weeks in, where they've given it some thought, they've got curiosity, they kind of went online, so you want to find out where they are in that process. Do you want to use an exclusive buyer agency agreement? Maybe something you want to talk about. Okay, I'm going to set you up on a property search. And meanwhile, I'm going to send you what I call a MoxiPresent to give you some idea of some of the homes that are available right now. So what Heather just showed you, you can do that with the buyers. And again, when they leave your office, by the time they get home, they can have that presentation waiting for them. And that will be a great tool to solidify your relationship with them. The advantages of McColly Connect and how you can potentially put them in front of listings before they hit the MLS and before they hit Zillow. Again, that's something you have. We want to have they downloaded our app, and obviously you want to get your app on their phone. And of course, make sure they get added to your sphere of influence in your Moxie Engage program. And about the last 2 minutes, we're going to talk about open houses, opportunity to grow your database, opportunity to capture other buyers, opportunity to potential capture other sellers. So it talks about the objectives of the open house. Again, meet buyers, market the home to those buyers, sell the home to satisfy the seller, but also generate potential listing appointments. I'm going to give you the overview. You can read that. And I think a lot of this stuff just makes common sense. When somebody enters your open house, you know, you want to make them feel at home, make them feel comfortable, let them wander through the property. You do want to re-engage. You do want to try to capture their name and their contact information. One way to do that when you're talking to strangers is our sellers have asked that we get the names of all those that attend the open house, and for security purposes and things like that. So if I could have you sign my register, I'd appreciate that. And then to just engage them with questions, what brought them to this open house? Are they from out of the area? What was it attracted to the home? Are they working with an agent? Do they have a home to sell? So you're going to be asking all of those potential questions. What do you want to have there? Maybe you want to have your laptop with your on your website. You want to have the home flyers. You want to have Diamond Residential Mortgage information. So you want a variety of things, obviously your business cards, asking them if they can put you, if you can put them into your network. Ask them if you found other properties, would it be okay if you pass them along to them? And another thing to potentially look for, the open house listing appointment. So here you are. You've got somebody that came in, they have a home they do need to sell. Hasn't been listed yet. They're just getting some idea of what's out there on the market. So rather than, can I call you about this? Maybe I finish my open house at 3 o'clock. Would it be okay if I stop by to take a look at your home so I could create a report for you so that where you know where you would stand potentially as far as market value and so forth. Won't take more than probably 15 or 20 minutes of your time. Would that be okay? I'm sure I could be there by probably 3:30, 3:45 at the latest. So you can search for that appointment. They say, actually, that would be a good idea. That would be very nice. Could you do that? All right, let me get your property address. Let me do that. And they leave the open house. And if you don't have anything to do, what can you do? You can immediately create a Moxie presentation. You can send that presentation, and when you get to their home, did you get my email? How impressive would that be for a property owner to see that you could do something that quickly? And you could also send them the buy-side property valuations. And I gave you 3 AVMs, automated valuation models. As you can see, there were quite a bit of a difference. So if you like, we can get more specific. And if you like, I'll create a more specific report for you. But let me see where you stand as far as your selling situation. So just something to think about. Can I get an appointment with somebody generated from my open house? Page 43, I pretty much covered contacting neighbors to the listing. Lots of stuff, short amount of time. But again, utilizing the tools. So I think the homework for today, as Tracy said, as Heather said, was go home today, tonight, do a Moxie presentation. You'll be surprised how easy it is. See what you can come up with. If you do have any difficulties, then talk to your coach, talk to your manager. If any of us, shoot us an email and somebody's going to help you with that. And now I'm turning it over to Monica, and she's going to get you further involved in our technology and those tools. So thanks. Hopefully gave you some good information and put it to good use. Thanks again.